Hello, my name is John Sveck. Welcome to this ALL24 video. Coach Waterman and I have a special guest today, Coach Ben Dandria. He is the Special Teams Coordinator and DB Coach at Queen's University. Thanks for being with us, Coach.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Very excited for this one clip. We're going to do a special teams play from last season in the AUS. Coach Waterman, if you could help me pick the play, please. You tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay. All right, we have the screen ready now, coaches. So I'll give Coach Dandria first crack here. Obviously, it's a punting situation. What are some things you notice when you glance at this, Coach?
So first things first, I noticed it's not technically a spread punt formation, but there are a few teams in our league that have used this as well. Super wide splits and more of a wedge, protection scheme. So those guys on the line of scrimmage are going to get off the ball pretty easily. It's kind of hard to keep them on the line of scrimmage because they have a little bit more spacing between them. And the wedge is usually built up with some bigger guys, so that if you do send the block, they're pretty stout in their protection. So, I see the nice 3-point stances. Looks like Acadia is going for a block here. I'm not sure if that's just great coaching on the special team side and selling what you're doing, but it looks like some pressure is going to happen here.
Right on. When you say you see some of this, when you're going against this kind of punt scheme, that must change your week of prep a little bit in your game preparation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of coaches I know like to go after this formation a lot and try to produce some blocks. I found it's actually extremely difficult to block when you have those, 260, 270-pound guys in the wedge at times. The one thing that I've tried to work is sometimes those 260, 270-pound guys don't necessarily cover that well. So generally speaking, I try to hold up some of those athletes at the line of scrimmage as best I can and maybe start setting up a block with, some doubles on the line of scrimmage and that kind of stuff and try to force that, bigger player in the wedge to kind of make a tackle. To each their own. There's definitely a bunch of ways that you can attack it, but I found just from personal experience, it's very difficult to block a punt on one of these schemes.
And that's a great point you made, Coach, in terms of those first level guys. They're going to be a little bit smaller and they can get down and a little bit more difficult to get your hands on. But those second level guys, those back wedge guys, they're going to be a little bit bigger. So if you can sort of hold those guys up in the front row like you suggested and force those back row guys to make the tackles, that's where you can attack that, eh?
Yeah, in theory at least. Yeah,
in theory.
That's
it's
right.
all theory. It's all theory. We all know that.
That's good. Let's let it run here a little bit, see what we see, guys. There we get the snap right at the whistle.
So it looks like a half block scheme to me. Obviously an overload pressure, lots of A-gap pressure there. And then it looks like you have kind of a half return set up on the other side of the field. It's not a clean everybody go type block. You are helping your turner out a little bit if you do not get there. This is what I'm talking about. You got plenty of guys to the block point there, but it's very difficult to be able to split that seam. And those line of scrimmage players, yes, they get out very easily, but they do hold you up a little bit as well. So, it's a great job on the blocking scheme, and it's a good scheme too by Acadia. You've sent pressure, and a lot of the times that punter hears footsteps instead of concentrating on turning the laces and that kind of stuff. So you could produce a worse punt in that sense too. But you can see that a lot of those Acadia players are doing a great job tracking their player and giving their return an option to potentially push it up the field if you don't make it on the block.
What do you think about the coverage lanes by the punt team here, Coach?
It's pretty good. The guys are working with each other. You can definitely see there's a first cutoff man to the field there. He's getting even with that ball, trying to make sure that there's no possible way for that guy to get outside there. And then you actually have secondary contain as well, or feather contain, or however you want to use that terminology. But you can definitely tell the spacing is really well done with these punt players here. They fit in off each other really well, and it doesn't look like this return's got a whole lot of a chance for a big return in this scenario.
Yeah, just from the return side of it, you see, first thing you notice is there's two returners, so it may be a possible windy situation, typical AUS game here, and looks like they might have with the leverage, maybe a field return here with the leverage you're trying to get. So it looks like that the ball just wasn't carried in the air, and maybe that pressure created a little bit of a rushed kick.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's interesting that they sent the pressure with two returners as well. You know, one, it's a good way to hide that you're going to send pressure at times. Two, like you said, Coach Waterman, if it's a windy day or you're not sure, you know, the punter's average, you know, that kind of stuff. There's a number of things, or they're a field and boundary kicking team. And the last one that I find is I do like to send pressures a lot of the time with two returners. And part of that is because that off return man can at least help your returner that's catching the ball and set up a block, and he's not going to be by himself back there. So like you said, a number of good reasons why you have that second returner. You know, if you're trying to get basically a +1 scheme to try to block a punt, you know, two returners isn't necessarily what you want, but you know, putting one or two returners back there is definitely a well thought out scheme.
And Coach, I got a question for you. Maybe if you want to
Sure.
freeze it right there, John. You know, when you get some of these situations where the ball hits the ground and
Mm-hmm.
the coverage guys sort of chasing it down, now the ball's bouncing. How do you talk to your guys covering about sort of when the ball's on the ground? Where do they move? How do you want them to sort of get out of the way and make sure you're respecting that halo?
Yeah, so one thing we actually work on, and we do some drills with this too, and it speaks my language as a DB coach. But we actually have our guys take a step and open up their hip and back out. So you know, I've heard some coaches talk about, you know, just run out of the way. So even if you run forward out of that 5-yard halo, well, essentially you've taken yourself out of the play if you do that. I don't necessarily agree with that. So but being able to basically open up your hip and basically run backwards while still being able to keep your eyes on the ball, which is, you know, something that defensive backs, linebackers, that kind of stuff do all the time. And just trying to get out of that halo and then working yourself to square up once you do get out of that halo. You know, bouncing ball is a very difficult scenario. You're never going to be 100% clean on no yards penalties during the year. It's just kind of the way it goes. But at least usually if you open up that hip and you work to get out, one, you might get out of the halo in time, and two, at least you're going to be, you know, talking about a 5-yard penalty as opposed to a 15 if the returner catches it in the air.
Phenomenal. That's a great breakdown, guys. Enjoy talking special teams. That's a really enjoyable one clip. So thanks for being with us, Coach.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. That was awesome.
Thanks, Coach.